So it's 5:30, and I'd like to call the meeting to order, which is a special meeting of the select board to take up consideration of the status of the Shed v. Calais issue. And so we've got a couple of things to weigh, one of which is a recent judgment by the Vermont Superior Court to dismiss a challenge to the town's remedial actions and the court's previous injunction order, and to provide us with some counsel. I've invited the town's attorney to give us an update on that status and kind of talk through some guidance, some legal guidance relative to that. And finding that per 1 VSA section 313A1F, finding that pre-public knowledge of kind of these issues and discussion thereof would put the town at disadvantage, and to receive confidential attorney-client communications. I'd like to make a motion to enter into executive session. Thank you. And because we've got members who are remote, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Davis.
Roll call for executive.
Yeah, for vote enter. Yeah.
Aye.
And Christy.
Aye.
Jamie.
Aye.
I'd also like to invite in Marilyn Muskie to the executive session. And with that, we'll stop recording and go. Having kind of considered what the legal standing is of the town, I just have prepared a brief statement about summarizing where we are. So I'm going to read that, and then we'll get into some other dialogue about what we can consider regarding these horses. So on September 18th, 2024, the Vermont Superior Court issued a final judgment dismissing Ms. Shedd's challenge of the court's permanent injunction order that was dated December 19th, 2022, and the town's successive notice of remedial action dated January 18th, 2023. With the court's decision to dismiss Ms. Shedd's challenge, the terms of the original injunction order and the associated notice of remedial actions remain in full standing. Since the impoundment of Ms. Shedd's horses, Ms. Shedd has failed to demonstrate a willingness to satisfy the conditions of the remedial action or provide payment for the expenses incurred to the town in association with the ongoing impoundment. Multiple attempts to engage in settling this matter have left little changed for more than 2.5 years. It is clear that Ms. Shedd has little interest in seeking resolution except on her own terms. Furthermore, the town has exhausted the generosity of its boarding facilities, both of whom will not be able to extend their services beyond November 1st, 2024. Good consideration of these circumstances, I would like to make a motion to proceed with exercising the town's right as established by the December 19th, 2022 injunction order to pursue the sale, relocation, or humane disposal of the 4 impounded horses. So that is a motion that I'm putting forth. And I have a second.
Second.
And with remote folks, I'll ask for any further discussion or amendments to the motion. No. A roll call vote on those in favor. Jamie?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Christy?
Yes.
And Bill?
Yes.
Yes.
And I say yes. So thank you. That's not an easy decision, but We've also invited some additional participants to the conversation to help kind of evaluate our options. Marcy Bear is in attendance to bring her expertise on keeping and selling horses, which is now before the town. Sarah Spencer, who is the vet, who has been working with the town over a very extended period of time. Joining. Oh, good.
There you
Great.
You should probably tell her Marcy's here too.
Hi, Sarah. You're on mute.
go. Be the one voting.
No, I'm not.
I'm doing the really bad thing of zooming and driving at the same time, so
Oh, Lord.
Well,
but I am here, so let me know. I've just come over the Roxbury Gap, so I should be back in pretty good signal to contribute.
Thank you, Sarah. And so just to let you know, here in attendance with us is Marcy Bear, who is an acquaintance of the board, and also has some expertise in horse keeping, selling, and the like. Yeah. Okay. Good. So the town has decided to exercise its right to pursue its options in rehoming, selling, or selling the horses. And so it would be most helpful, I think, Sarah, if you'd be willing and able to speak to, I guess, the marketability of the 4 horses. Relative, I guess, to the time of year. I think we're all pretty up to speed on what the challenges are with trying to take action in fairly short order. We've got pretty firm deadline and commitment to the boarding facilities to at the very least relocate the horses before November 1st. But that's going to be a challenge for any other boarding facility at this time of year, where a lot of boarding commitments have already been made and feed has been put up and allocated. Is that a fair assessment, Sarah?
Yes, for sure. I think it is. We are in a challenging time of year for marketing, or even donating, rehoming, through rescue or sanctuary organizations. I have reached out to a couple of the most local ones, and I think there is some promise there. I think one of my concerns is that for the mature animals, we really do not know what their level of soundness for riding is, either mentally or physically. That's not something that we have engaged in testing in any way. So we really don't know, what level of training they have ever received under saddle. And, certainly we really don't know how long it's been since anything like that was done. So to me, the marketability of the mature horses is extremely limited by that. If we were to engage in employing somebody like Marcy Bear, who has a lot of experience in this area, to assess that, then obviously it takes time and resources and energy to do that. But I think that's the only way that we could consider those animals potentially marketable is to actually kind of undertake that, in while they're still in our care. Obviously there are, sanctuaries and rescues out there that have, they are in the, they have the capacity to do all of that, and then, can provide a reasonable guarantee that hopefully those animals will end up in, a good home. And some rescues and sanctuaries are better at that than others. Obviously we have to have some level of trust there that if that's what was happening, that we would have good hope that they would end up in a good place for the long term. I think the youngest animal, the 3-year-old, really the only challenge with him is just that he's still a stallion. So I would strongly encourage that he be castrated. I think if he was going to be taken in by a sanctuary or rescue organization, they would potentially not require that before he came, but it would be their one of their first immediate actions upon receiving him, because having a stallion is a huge liability. But yeah, I think he has pretty good potential just because of his age. But obviously his level of training for his age is very low. He just has the real basics, and not a lot more has been done with him.
Sarah?
Yep.
Can you hear me? Yeah, what kind
I
of
can.
horses, what breed do we have?
So the colt is a gypsy vanner. There's a 9-year-old mare that is a quarter horse. There is a mid-teens mare that is a thoroughbred type, and there is a mid-teens gelding who is it's hard to say. He may have some draft cross or warm blood cross. He's kind of a big bodied type of horse.
Okay.
Sarah, I think there have been some on again, off again conversations about potentially engaging the original breeder for the 3-year-old stallion, and some potential interest in that horse being, returned for some sort of credit, I guess, or resale. But that breeder's also in South Dakota, right? So I would imagine that would chew up a fair amount of any kind of sale price, just in considering that transport of
Yeah.
It costs you a couple $1,000 to about $2,000-$2,100.
Yeah.
Do we know who the breeder is? So we know he's registered?
Yeah, I've been in contact with them a couple of times when Ms. Shedd's father was realizing that the colt was a huge part of the problem for her to get the horses back, because we considered it not only a danger to other animals, but a danger to himself and people, if he was escaping and trying to breed mares in the region. So her father considered that enough of a liability that at one point earlier this year, he was sort of trying to convince her that we should sell this animal back through the breeder. But that kind of dried up, and we are where we are. But I do have contact with that breeder out in South Dakota.
What kind of, this may be a tricky question to answer. I wondered, are folks comfortable having a conversation about what kind of value sounds like the gelded draft horse kind of mix and the 3-year-old colt would potentially have on the local market? Not that I would hold anybody accountable to it.
Yeah, good.
I mean, I think just for a matter of kind of putting it into perspective for the board, what
Yes, so
what kind of dent we would be putting into the.
you've got 3 unknowns there, the quarter horse, the possible thoroughbred, the draft horse, without knowing their level of training, their physical soundness, their mental soundness. that would all influence their marketability and their worth. So without having that information,
Can you give us a range, maybe?
well, if they're not rideable,
Right.
that goes from nothing to rideability for a teenage gelding that hasn't been used 5-6 years. Couple $1,000, 25, top, maybe 40. But not a lot. Yeah. Thoroughbred, teenage thoroughbred mare, if she doesn't have any training, you can get a rescue off the track for $1,500 and so we started, so it's
Yeah.
potentially not much. Certainly not what the town is willing to do.
Right.
So in terms of recouping costs, you're not gonna see much. I mean, I think the most efficient way to do it is either through a rescue, and I don't know who Sarah's contacted so far, but either to give them to a rescue or give them to somebody, even potentially, sometimes they're hard to deal with.
Yeah, that's certainly my concern, given the time of year and everything else.
Yeah, it's possible, it's not impossible. If you want me to, I'm happy to go see them and give you my opinion. But, you know, there's a lot you can tell just by handling half an hour's work, so, happy to do that.
I would imagine the way they would work with like a rescue organization, and it would be kind of a donation to that rescue organization, and if they could sell them in some way and find them sustained home and house, that kind of goes into
You
their.
donate to the rescue organization. Rescue organizations run on a shoestring
Yeah,
by
right.
donations,
Yeah.
they don't make money. You would give them, and sometimes people give them horses with some dollars. So,
All right, can we work that into next year's budget?
so, yeah, I mean, donating to the rescues is, if you can get a rescue to take them, it just gets them out of your yard afterwards.
As I understand it, one of them is fairly nearby, but 3 of them are over in the Burlington area. Is that correct? They're,
Yeah, sorry, you'd be able to better speak to that, rough locale of the animals. I've never been able to quite keep it straight.
Yeah, that is accurate. We have one in Worcester and 3 in Shelburne.
Oh, in Shelburne, okay.
so that's a drive, yeah, they're not close.
Can I ask where they are, sir?
Do we want to stay?
I mean, I think, I'd be happy to share the borders information afterwards.
Fine.
You know, I think if you feel like you've got the time to, do, you know, an evaluation in fairly, you know, short order, if we can share that and the contact information of the borders, and, yeah, I think the borders have been very, participatory, and willing to engage around, you know, finding some sort of permanent, stable resolution. They're just pretty tired at this point. Which is understandable.
The little gypsy 3-year-old horse is a high demand for gypsy horses, so he's very marketable. And it's a matter of getting him gelded, but he's marketable, even without training at 3 years old.
Initially, there was a kind of anecdotal dialogue around, the border of that particular animal bartering, or keeping it in exchange for, some or all of the boarding fees that had been kind of incurred, at a pretty substantial discount, as it were, but, Sarah, do you happen to know if that option is like still on the table at all? That was kind of an evolving position
I
over
think
the last
the-
6 months.
Yeah, I mean, I think the bartering has kind of become too unwieldy for him for him to feel comfortable still wanting to do that. I mean, I think potentially if it was a really reasonable offer, he might consider it, but he's also, in a position of like going into wintertime and, it's planning feeding and all of that stuff. I think if you had run that past him in, April, he probably would have said, yeah, let's do it. But we're at a different time frame now, so
Well,
I would
certainly,
have
and
to.
more cost. It would be an interesting line of dialogue, but okay. Do any other board members have any other questions?
Yeah,
Regarding-
let's suppose we evaluate them and find a couple of marketable, one or more. What would we do?
You either hire somebody or have volunteer, whatever, or just start putting them out on the market again. I mean, the 2 weeks, we'd have to, if we could either get an extension or move them temporarily. But, you just get, it's like selling anything. There's places that you can advertise, there's word of mouth and phone calls. I can think of 3, 4 people that I could call right now that might be interested in Gypsy Horse if he's nice. The other ones,
We're constrained, as you know, by wanting to be very discreet about what we're selling and where.
I looked on some of the Facebook pages where horses are advertised, and I haven't seen any footprint of the previous owner that would indicate that there, doesn't mean that they don't know people that would be covering that for them, but, being discreet limits your options
Right,
more and more.
but it's essentially somebody who knows the network would have to go in and start making contacts. That's how we have to do it, is that right?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah,
Okay.
pretty much.
Any other questions from Morocco or
Days of Morocco.
Totally jealous.
is there anybody there, Jamie,
I
that
don't think
would
so.
trade camels for horses or?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
They got a lot of nice horses in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
stiff competition in that
I've
market.
actually ridden in
That's
Morocco.
right.
Yeah.
And is another option too, to find somebody who'll just take all 4 of them and do whatever. They'll take them and market them or do whatever. We just wash our hands and we're done.
There's a potential, there are some dealers that potentially might do that, yeah.
So we're not talking about a lot of money here, really.
We are not talking about a lot of money, you will not recoup your costs.
Close, right?
No, not even close.
Not even close, and I guess I'm concerned about the expense of adding expense to trying to market them. It's just gonna dig the hole deeper and chew away at whatever our recoup would potentially be.
Right,
So
find somebody who'll take them and just market them or do whatever they want with them, and we're off the hook.
yeah.
There are dealers that'll take them, I mean, potentially, again, it's in New England, it's not a good time of year that people are likely to pick that up, but if you could get them shipped to Pennsylvania, New York, something like that, but there are people that would potentially do that. They're not Amish horses, no, they're not, well, they take the gypsy, they don't have money in horses, but, yeah, it's like selling a sports car to a farmer that needs a truck, so,
I understand.
yeah. But there are dealers that deal in camp horses, there are dealers that deal in lower tier horses that take them. There are, I mean, so I don't know, Sarah, something like Pond Hill might be interested. Gagne's, I mean, there are people in Vermont, Maine, New Hampshire that do deal and might take a package deal.
Sarah, do you have any input on kind of next steps? Go to lingering.
I think my gut instinct is that if we have horse rescues that we know are, reputable and taking, good care to follow through on these animals, that's probably the best possible outcome, is to, find homes for them that way. And I think, I know and, have seen the outcomes of horse dealers, and it's not good. For at least two of the animals that we're talking about, I'd rather put them down on the spot than let them go to a horse dealer, because I know that they will either end up, somewhere in a kill pen, or, just because my assessment of them so far is that they have very limited training, and they can potentially be still trained at the age that they're at, but I think the risk to them ending up with a horse dealer is pretty high, that they do not have any better quality life than they did running around the wilds of Calais and Woodbury. So I'd be pretty reluctant at this point to say, yep, let's ship them all to a dealer. But yeah, I think if we potentially have local, relatively local private people that were interested in, this young colt, then I think we have great potential to, to find that animal a good home without feeling worried that he's going to end up in a, kill pen auction somewhere.
Sarah, what are the costs to euthanize a horse?
Costs of euthanasia, I mean, for a typical planned visit for me is somewhere around $250.
Then there's disposal, what happens there?
In most of the time in Vermont, it's a burial with an excavator.
All right.
So I'd say none or not many of the board members probably have the experience or bandwidth to kind of pursue those options expeditiously or kind of sussing those out. So what would an arrangement look like working with either or both of you to kind of engage a limited network of rescue organizations to see if we can relocate the animals?
I mean, I'd be glad to work with Sarah on that, I can find out who she's talked to, we could divvy it up and just make phone calls.
Okay.
Would it be worth asking you or somebody to evaluate the horses first?
I think so.
Since we could do something.
But are you willing to go as far as,
Shelburne?
yeah,
Yeah, I go down to Bristol and down there to work anyway,
Oh.
so. and stuff like that. Yeah, I could go see the little guy if the Worcester place, if they allow it, I could go see him tomorrow.
Okay.
And not to press you, but is this something we could do within the next week?
Let's see.
yeah, I was gonna say.
We're on the clock too, so.
I understand.
Or I guess they have this question, when do you think you could go to show
I could, potentially get out there on Saturday. Definitely by the 14th, These are 2 days ago. But the sooner the better.
So that's enough clarity, I think, for me, for this evening relative to, well, you know, I think what the numbers of the board's ambitions are. As we kind of discussed earlier, what I think would be the most prudent and flexible option for the town would be for the board to consider authorizing a town representative or a pair of representatives to work with Marcy and Sarah to pursue the potential sale, you know, or otherwise rehoming of the animals in the interest of in the best interest of the town, and I think in the best interest of the humane treatment and placement of the horses. Does that seem like a succinct enough motion? And I would propose that those representatives be myself, assisted by Kari, to the extent that he can be a daily contact in the town office.
That sounds like a good motion. I would second that.
All right, roll call vote on all in favor. Jamie,
Aye.
Christie,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
and I'm a yes as well. I think that kind of wraps up the dialogue with clear enough marching orders. And we'll kind of reevaluate the situation, I think, once we see where we land on the sale or rehoming of the horses. And so I'll,
Do we
Yeah.
have to then authorize the sale, or could we just go ahead? Are you authorized under this to go ahead with it?
yeah, that was the intent of the motion, that something presents itself and decisions can be made kind of in the hierarchy discussed, and we'll just make them.
Great.
I think,
board is-
go
Yeah,
ahead,
the
Missy.
board is authorizing its designees to go ahead with a sale or whatever rehoming arrangement it finds in everyone's best interest.
So I think it would be appropriate to draft a notice of tonight's decisions to go to Ms. Shed as discussed. And that doesn't really change the decisions, but I think that would be appropriate. Does that sound about right to everybody? I would probably say that we would word that similar to the statement that came out of executive session. But
Question, do you
Yeah.
intend to use names? I just don't
No.
want certain people to be bothered.
No, I just-
Please.
I'm just gonna, I would propose that it would just be a notice of the town's decision to exercise its right to sell, rehome, you know, seek humane relocation of the animals. To the best of
Jordan,
its-
is Elizabeth Shedd still represented by a lawyer? Would the notice have to go to the lawyer?
That is frankly not been clear, a couple of times, through this situation. But I guess I would propose that we do both. That had been a discrepancy in the past, so I'd say that we'd send notice to both her attorney, and of record, and then also, to her directly.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I'm,
What was that?
Okay, shouldn't we just send it to the attorney and let the attorney notify
That's
the
right.
clients?
That's what I would do.
yeah, we can, I certainly understand the logic there. It is just been thrown back in our face that we have not sent other notices to her to her person.
Well, I know, and Carl once actually called me to ask me what a decision was that his attorney had received, and I had to refer him to his attorney. They don't seem to understand the process, but that is the process.
It is, and I understand, I'm just disclosing that, that said attorney has used the argument that we have not
Oh, it was.
delivered notice to the persons.
Okay.
Oh,
Um,
okay. I didn't
so-
understand that.
I guess to cover our bases, it's not clear that we have an obligation to provide notice, but I
Okay.
think it's worth documenting, to a certain extent.
So sometime the next week, we'll send something.
Yeah, I think maybe we draft it and either send it within this next week or, by our next meeting, I'll have something for
We can talk.
either us to sign or it'll be
Okay.
signed. I can't imagine the decisions will be made within this next week, but.
Okay.
All right, well, with that, concluding the discussion, I would entertain a motion to dismiss, to adjourn.
To dismiss the case?
Who's doing what? Yeah, to adjourn, please.
So-
I move to adjourn.
Everybody moves to adjourn, everybody seconds, and roll call
Everybody
vote.
votes yes.
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 Still in agreement.
I've never seen anybody decline a motion to adjourn. Thank you all, and Sarah, thank you very much for everything, of course, but for making it to tonight's conversation.
Yeah, we appreciate your
Yeah.
advice.
Yeah, of course, of course.
And Marcy too.
Yeah,
Thank you for
Marcy, thank
what
you.
you're about to do. What you're about to do.
Thanks, and safe travels, Jamie and Christy, sorry to hear about the COVID.
Yeah, hopefully I avoid it, but we'll see.
Hope so.
Yeah.
Jamie, when are you coming back?
I'll be back Wednesday night.
Nice.
Ah,
Sage really
Yeah.
wants you back.
Yeah, I would have padded that by at least a couple of days, Jamie.
I'll be back Saturday.
Sarah, this is Marcy. Can I give you a call tomorrow?
Who? Sarah.
Tomorrow.